But we did want to get into what it's like in the real world here in Baltimore for so many businesses. Chris Reel is with us. He's the president of the Baltimore Tourism Association. Great to have you on.
Good
We
morning.
really appreciate you coming on the show. Look, we know it's really, really hard on the hospitality business and the tourism industry right now. Do you have a sense? Can you give a number or give us an idea, paint the picture of what it's like right now?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Thanks so much for having me on today, and thanks for covering this subject. It's been a rough couple of months for the tourism and hospitality industry, to say the least. And just to kind of paint a picture for you guys, this is usually a really bright spot, not only in Maryland's economy, but really across the country, with millions of jobs, a lot of economic activity. In the state of Maryland, there are over 150,000 workers in hospitality and tourism. And the recent estimates of unemployment have the unemployment figure up around 50%. So, I mean, that's about twice as bad as the worst unemployment of the Great Depression. And if you do the math, that means over 70,000 workers in Maryland have been furloughed or laid off for at least 6-7 months with really no end in sight.
The Baltimore Tourism Association president, Chris Reel, is on board with us. He has an op-ed in the Baltimore Sun looking at kind of where we are. The pandemic is hurting tourism. You, in your op-ed, Chris, make a proposal that Comptroller Pierre Francho put out, which is we have a $500 and some million, understanding, in the rainy day fund, and there's a proposal to use that money to really help small businesses. Talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, well, we're really in favor of this idea that Comptroller Francho has put forward. I think a lot of times when people think of tourism, they maybe think of the big players, the big hotel chains and theme parks and that kind of thing. But in the state of Maryland, over 90% of our tourism businesses are actually small businesses. And we're really the ones who have seen our revenues just completely dry up. So we really think that additional assistance is critical, especially now as we move into the winter. And if there's money in the rainy day fund that can be used in the form of low interest loans or grants or however we want to go about it, I think that this is absolutely the right time to use it, because
it's pouring. It's pouring right now. It's not raining. It's pouring.
Day.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, have we ever used it for that before? C4, maybe you would know that better.
No, we have not. As a matter of fact, our AAA bond rating that we maintain is only there because we do maintain a certain amount of our budget in a rainy day fund. But I would say, and I think Chris appropriately says, this is a unique situation, Bryan. But to answer your question, no, we haven't used it in this way.
Yeah. So I understand, like you're saying, low interest loans or grants. But so it could be used like kind of like the PPP is being used right now, right? For payroll and things like that?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. And by the way, I think more assistance also needs to come from the federal level, which is also an issue with what's happening in Washington, D.C. But yes, any form of assistance, whether it's state or federal, is going to be critical, because if that assistance does not come, the alternative is much, much worse, because then you have people that are not going to be able to go back to work, businesses that are going to close permanently, and that's going to have a much more severe impact on the economy.
When do you think you can recover? Like, we had this vaccine, who knows, hopefully by this time next year, we're not really thinking about coronavirus too much. But when do you think recovery happens for your industry?
That's a really good question, because I think our industry was one of the first to be affected by this. When this started happening, people started canceling travel plans. And unfortunately, it may be one of the last to come back, because it's going to be something that people might not necessarily be comfortable with for a little while. So obviously, we want to follow the science, and we want people's health to be our number one priority. That's first and foremost, is getting this under control. Once it is under control, I do think that people have this pent-up need to get back out there and to travel with friends and family and to start making new memories. So we do expect that this industry is going to bounce back. It's just bridging that gap between now and whatever that date is in the future.
Chris Reel, I look at sometimes a crisis also provides a potential opportunity. We're 40 years since the Inner Harbor was open. I remember when it was. I was actually there for the grand opening, but also I remember it was Rash Field and turned into the Inner Harbor. It needs to be reimagined. And with Bryan and Nehman, we're going to talk a lot about this over the next year, what the Inner Harbor might be down the road. But do you see a potential opportunity as the Inner Harbor is changing its image to be a potential tourism draw?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And what I think it's important to note is that tourism should be working hand in glove with the city and the surrounding communities. Sometimes the discussion seems to be like, well, it's either something that's good for the neighborhoods or it's good for tourism. And I firmly believe that it can be both, and it should be both. So whatever we do at the Inner Harbor needs to attract visitors from other parts of Maryland, from other parts of the country, and from other parts of the world, frankly. But it also needs to keep the needs of the city in mind as well. And I think we can absolutely do that down there. We've got such a great asset with the waterfront. The redevelopment's already happening at Rash Field, and I absolutely think there's an opportunity at Harbor Place to sort of I've always considered the Inner Harbor to be Baltimore's front porch. It's not necessarily the most important part of the house, but it's the part that everybody sees first. And if we can do that right and really do it in a way that highlights the entire city and benefits everybody.
The word today is reimagine. That's the popular word today. Reimagine it. Okay.
Yeah. Very good.
Absolutely.
All right. Best of luck, Chris. Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
I appreciate the time, guys. Thanks so much.
It's Chris Reel, President, Baltimore Tourism Association, and Baltimore Rent